Have you ever looked at a place on Earth and wondered if nature itself was capable of creating something so extraordinary? Across every continent, there are breathtaking natural wonders shaped over millions of years by volcanoes, glaciers, oceans, wind, and time itself. From towering cliffs and crystal clear caves to colourful mountains, endless deserts, and waterfalls of unimaginable power, these landscapes reveal just how incredible our planet truly is. Each of these incredible places tells a story written not by humans, but by the unstoppable forces of nature over millions of years. Today, we're taking you on an unforgettable journey to discover some of the most spectacular natural wonders on Earth that everyone should see at least once in a lifetime. Shiprock. From far away, Shiprock looks like a giant stone ship stranded in a sea of sand, with a towering central body and sharp rock ridges extending around it. In some places, the rock walls rise almost vertically, making the formation not only stand out on the plane, but also feel like a natural wall that is hard to reach. On days with strong sunlight, the dark rock contrasts with the bright sand, making the whole mountain appear like a giant black mark in the desert. This wonder is actually the dry skeleton of a 30-million-year-old volcano, stripped by the desert until its frozen magma core was exposed. Stretching out from the main body are magma walls rising for miles, forming sword-like ridges that cast sharp shadows across the ground at sunset. For native people, this is not just stone, but the sacred trace of a giant bird that once saved their ancestors and then turned into rock in the desert. Antelope Canyon. Not shaped by a gentle stream, this canyon was carved by powerful desert flash floods, carrying sand and rock like giant natural sandpaper. Under the movement of the sun, the sandstone walls shift from ash grey at dawn to glowing red at noon and lavender purple near dusk. The most magical moment comes around midday, when sunlight passes through the narrow opening and meets fine desert dust, forming surreal pillars of light. About 120 feet below the surface, some passages narrow to less than 3 feet, turning the sky above into a thin blue ribbon. On both sides, smooth spiral grooves make the stone look like a rushing waterfall frozen in an instant. Behind that beauty, sudden flash floods remain a real danger, reminding visitors that this living canyon is still being carved by the desert. Molokini crater. Like a lonely crescent moon rising from the blue sea, this rock is actually the exposed peak of an underwater volcano that erupted about 230,000 years ago. Once heavily damaged because it was used as a bombing practice target during wartime, its ecosystem has recovered strongly and become a special marine reserve. Hidden inside the protected rock curve is a vibrant coral reef, supporting more than 250 fish species, with many found nowhere else on Earth. The water around the crater is often clear for more than 150 feet because the barren volcanic rock has almost no soil or sand for storms to wash into the sea. The calm water inside completely contrasts with the outer side, where a vertical cliff drops about 300 feet and constantly faces strong currents. Above the surface, it looks like a silent grey rock. But just underwater is a colourful coral city, making this wonder a living proof of nature's power to recover. Bryce Canyon National Park. Rising more than 9,000 feet high, this wonder is not a regular canyon, but a series of giant amphitheatres eroded into the edge of a stone plateau. In the deep silence of its enclosed spaces, you can almost sense the cliffs slowly crumbling and retreating 2 to 4 feet every century. Winter turns this place into a surreal painting when white snow covers the glowing red rock spires like burning matches stuck in ice. The vibrant red and orange colours come from oxidised minerals, making the porous stone columns look like embers glowing from within. Tens of thousands of sharp rock columns are carved by frost wedging, as freezing and thawing water breaks the stone about 200 times each year. When deep darkness falls, this isolated landscape reveals a perfect night sky, with thousands of stars and the Milky Way shining clearly to the naked eye. Haleakala Crater, United States. Not a crater born from an explosion. This majestic depression is an eroded valley on a mountain whose base is buried deep under the ocean, reaching a total height of more than 30,000 feet. At dawn or dusk, the peak can cast a giant triangular shadow onto the sky or the cloud layer, creating a very strange optical illusion. Over thousands of years, oxidation has turned the valley floor into rusty red, orange and black patches, making the landscape look like the surface of Mars. The space here is so quiet that it feels almost separated from the world below, making even the smallest sound feel unusually clear. At a freezing altitude above the inversion layer, visitors can see a white sea of clouds rolling just below their feet, as if they are standing on the roof of the atmosphere. In this harsh land, a rare silver plant quietly lives for many years, just to bloom one single cluster of flowers before dying, making this wonder feel even more like a world beyond Earth. Ko'olau Range. Standing like a natural fortress more than 3,100 feet high, this wonder is actually the remains of a giant shield volcano that began forming about 2,500,000 years ago. Dense vegetation clings to the sheer cliffs, while strong swirling winds can sometimes lift thin waterfalls backward into the sky. When tropical rainstorms arrive, hundreds of white waterfalls briefly appear across the green walls, then vanish as soon as the sky clears. About 1,500,000 years ago, a massive landslide tore away part of the volcano and sent huge debris into the ocean, forming an underwater debris field nearly 100 miles long. Over millions of years, erosion carved the remaining mountainside into countless parallel folds, turning the cliffs into a deep, green velvet curtain. This majestic, untouched beauty and strong prehistoric atmosphere have made the range an ideal filming location for movies about ancient worlds. Kualoa Valley. Born from a devastating geological collapse, this wild valley is actually the exposed core of a giant shield volcano that fell toward the ocean about 1,500,000 years ago. Its primitive beauty has made it one of the most famous outdoor filming landscapes for movies about ancient and prehistoric worlds. Whenever heavy rain enters this microclimate, hundreds of white waterfalls suddenly rush down the mountainsides, then vanish when the sky clears. Around the valley, cliffs more than 2,000 feet high have been carved by tropical rain into deep grooves for about 2 million years. Under afternoon light, those sharp folds make the cliffs look like a giant rib cage wrapped in an emerald velvet curtain. In ancient times, this isolated land was also considered sacred, a place where people seeking refuge could find protection and forgiveness. North Shore. Shaped by the power of distant winter storms, this pristine coastline becomes one of the most dramatic ocean stages in Hawaii. The roaring waves can sound like engines in the distance, filling the air with deep thunder and salty mist. When deep ocean swells hit the shallow coral reef, the water is forced upward and curls into giant hollow tubes. These winter waves can rise up to 50 feet, turning the coast into a breathtaking display of moving blue walls and white spray. Yet when summer arrives, that same ocean can become flat, clear and gentle, like a natural swimming pool. This powerful change between wild winter surf and peaceful summer water is what makes this coast one of Hawaii's most fascinating natural wonders. Nakalele Blowhole. Beneath the black volcanic rock, the ocean seems to run a natural water machine, gathering the force of waves and shooting it straight into the sky. This mechanism begins inside an underground lava tube facing the sea, where water is forced into a narrow space and creates a natural hydraulic pressure system. When high tide meets large waves, the pressure can push salty water up to 100 feet, turning a small hole in the rock into a giant spectacle. Before each eruption, the deep roar echoing from the rock cave is the sound of water and air being strongly compressed underground. The damp salt mist around the opening turns the basalt rock rusty red, making this dry landscape look very different from the green beauty often associated with Hawaii. Over thousands of years, sea salt and coastal wind have also carved the rock surface into small honeycomb-like holes, showing that this wonder is not frozen in time but is still being quietly shaped by nature. Unalaska Island. Sitting on the restless edge of the Ring of Fire, this island is constantly shaped by earthquakes, volcanoes, and powerful tectonic pressure. Across the mossy ground, rusty shipwrecks and old concrete bunkers reveal a harsh human history left behind in the fog. For thousands of years, Indigenous people mastered these rough seas with flexible kayaks covered in seal skin, built to survive fierce waves. Sudden willy-waw winds can plunge from the peaks at more than 120 miles per hour, turning calm weather into chaos within moments. The island also feels strangely alive with bold red foxes wandering across the tundra and stealing small objects from visitors. In winter, ice drifting onto black volcanic sand turns the coast into a cold, black and white painting, giving this remote island a lonely but unforgettable beauty. Mendenhall Glacier. This massive Alaskan glacier creates mesmerising turquoise ice caves, where beauty and fragility exist in the same frozen space. Each year, it retreats about 131 to 164 feet, releasing huge amounts of meltwater toward the sea. As the ice pulls back, it slowly reveals ancient forest remains that were buried for 1,000 to 2,000 years. Deep inside, ice stretching 13 miles and reaching about 984 feet thick is compressed so tightly that it removes air bubbles and reflects a haunting blue glow. On the surface, sharp ice towers and deep cracks show how unstable and constantly changing this frozen world can be. That mix of glowing colour, ancient secrets, and visible change makes Mendenhall Glacier one of Alaska's most fascinating natural wonders. Yellowstone National Park. This majestic land is actually the collapsed mouth of a supervolcano, where a thin crust of rock covers a magma chamber about 50 miles long. In winter, cold that can fall to minus 66 degrees Fahrenheit, rising steam may freeze into sparkling diamond dust in the air. Volcanic vents, boiling mud and sulphur gas fill the landscape with roaring sounds, bubbling pools and the sharp smell of minerals. Across the valleys, massive bison move through the steam, adding wildlife to a place already shaped by fire below. The colourful hot pools glow in blue, yellow, orange and red because heat-loving bacteria survive at different temperatures. This mix of supervolcano power, winter magic, geothermal colour and wild animals makes Yellowstone one of America's most fascinating natural wonders. Niagara Falls. Beyond ordinary borders, this giant waterfall acts like a natural drain valve for a huge share of the world's freshwater system. Its endless flow creates deep vibrations in the air and ground, making visitors feel the power of water before they even reach the edge. Downstream, the river is squeezed into a narrow gorge where the current twists into a powerful whirlpool and sends standing waves up to 16 feet high. Over 12,000 years, water, plunging at about 68 miles per hour, has crushed the bedrock and carved a gorge more than 7 miles long. That same force grinds tons of limestone into fine powder every minute, giving the water its bright emerald green colour. This mix of motion, sound, colour, and erosion makes Niagara Falls one of the most fascinating water wonders in North America. Florida Keys. Slicing through the ocean like a fragile blade, this island chain creates a stunning illusion as a thin road separates two different shades of sea. Mangrove roots grip the coral foundation, filter salt, trap mud, and slowly help new land form in the shallow water. The salty air is thick and humid, constantly wearing down metal, wood, and buildings exposed to the open coast. Instead of solid continental rock, much of this land rests on ancient coral remains built by countless marine organisms over time. Past hurricanes have shown how fragile this chain can be, reshaping coastlines and reminding people how powerful the ocean is. That balance between beauty, coral, mangroves, storms, and survival makes the Florida Keys one of America's most fascinating coastal wonders. Mount Rushmore. This majestic granite cliff is actually part of an ancient magma chamber that cooled underground about 1,600,000,000 years ago. Its visual power comes from the fierce contrast between the smooth, carved faces and the wild, rough mountain around them. The most brilliant detail is in the eyes, where the sculptor left a 20-inch stone pillar to catch light and make the faces seem alive. To create this monument, workers used explosives to remove 450,000 tons of rock, cutting within only a few inches of the faces. Hidden about 69 feet behind the carved heads, a sealed chamber holds a titanium box with important documents about the United States. Today, heat and cold slowly open cracks in the granite, so experts rappel down the monument to seal them and protect its shape. Lake Superior. With about 2,735 cubic miles of water, this inland sea holds enough fresh water to cover both American continents under 1 foot of water. In freezing winter, waves can turn shore cliffs into sparkling ice caves that look like natural crystal palaces. During autumn storms, the lake can also raise waves up to 40 feet high, showing that its surface behaves more like an ocean than a normal lake. Its deepest point drops 1,332 feet, forming a cold freshwater abyss that reaches below sea level. At great depth, the water stays near 39 degrees Fahrenheit, slowing decay and preserving the lake's cold, mysterious character. Yet the water is so clear in some places that you can see 100 feet down, making boats seem to float above a blue, empty space. San Francisco. Caught between two tectonic plates, sliding sideways about 1 to 2 inches a year, this city feels beautiful while standing on restless ground. Its strange weather appears through sharp microclimates, where a short drive can shift from warm sunlight to air almost 18 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. At the same time, cold ocean fog around 52 to 57 degrees Fahrenheit can rush in at 19 miles per hour, slowly hiding buildings in grey waves. The steep terrain forced a grid of streets over dramatic hills, creating slopes so sharp that parked cars must turn their wheels into the curb. The city also feels like a time prism, where old cable cars cross between modern glass towers linked to global technology. When fog swallows the view, deep ocean horns echo through the streets, giving this city a mysterious beauty shaped by earth, wind and sea. Las Vegas. Blazing in the dry desert, this city glows with millions of neon and LED lights, becoming one of the brightest artificial places on Earth when seen from space. Its landscape feels like a giant visual illusion, with indoor canals, golden glass towers, and impossible water features rising where desert should dominate. The most extreme highlight is a white beam of 42,300,000,000 candela, shooting from a pyramid top, visible to pilots from 275 miles away. Although annual rainfall is only about 4 inches, the city survives through massive water recycling, cleaning wastewater and sending it back to support fountains and artificial scenery. Inside the resorts, lights, sound and design blur the sense of time, turning entertainment into a carefully engineered world of illusion. This strange mix of desert survival, artificial luxury, water engineering and impossible brightness makes Las Vegas one of America's most fascinating man-made wonders. New York City. Carrying about 1,680,000,000,000 pounds of brick, steel and stone, this urban giant is slowly sinking toward the sea at less than 1 inch per year. In the middle of the concrete grid lies a man-made green space about 1 square mile wide, where trees, paths, rocks and lawns were carefully designed by humans. Around it, tall skyscrapers form urban canyons, blocking sunlight so strongly that some streets receive less than 2 hours of direct sun each day. Those same glass cliffs have also become hunting grounds for falcons, diving between towers at incredible speed. The tight street grid uses almost every inch of land, making the city feel dense, vertical, and intensely alive. Yet twice each year, that grid creates a magical sunset, when red light shoots straight through the concrete corridors like a river of fire. Washington, D.C. Built on only 68 square miles, this capital is a special district created to serve national power without belonging to any state. In spring, more than 3,000 flowering trees cover the city in pink, while summer humidity can climb near 90% and turn the air heavy. Beneath the green lawns and white monuments, secure tunnels and protected spaces reveal how deeply power and safety are built into the city. Strict height rules keep skyscrapers away, allowing wide avenues and grand stone buildings to dominate the skyline instead. Even the street system works like a hidden code, helping people understand direction and distance from the city's centre. Yet the strongest paradox remains that hundreds of thousands of residents pay federal taxes while still lacking full voting representation in Congress. Bonneville's Salt Flats. Under blinding white sunlight, Bonneville Salt Flats spreads out like an endless surface where the sky, salt and horizon almost become one. This wide and unreal look is why Hollywood has often chosen this place to build scenes of dead worlds, alien planets or fake snow, because salt does not melt under hot studio lights. After rain, the flat salt surface can reflect the sky so clearly that standing there feels like walking on clouds. About 15,000 years ago, this area once lay under a huge prehistoric lake. But the climate became drier, the water evaporated and crystallised salt was left behind. In summer, moisture leaves the salt crust under dry burning heat, causing the surface to shrink and crack into tightly connected polygon shapes, stretching endlessly. But the salt layer is not always solid because when the thin crust breaks, soft mud underneath can swallow wheels and turn a surface that seems safe into a trap. Mono Lake. In extremely salty and highly alkaline water, this lake looks like an alien world where white stone towers rise from the still surface. Unlike normal lakes, its water mostly leaves only through evaporation, so salt and minerals stay behind and become more concentrated over time. No fish live here, but the lake supports huge numbers of tiny, salt-tolerant creatures, creating important food for massive groups of migrating birds. The tufa towers form when calcium-rich freshwater springs under the lake meet highly alkaline lake water, creating calcium carbonate through a chemical reaction. More than 760,000 years old, this lake has survived many ice age cycles and become a natural archive of ancient climate in North America. Although the stone towers look as strong as fortresses, they are actually hollow, brittle, and easy to break, making this landscape both majestic and more fragile than it appears. Devil's Tower. Among quiet grasslands and pine forests, Devil's Tower rises like a giant mass of earth frozen in time. At sunset, the tower can turn golden red, making its vertical grooves look deeper and clearer, like marks carved into an ancient stone pillar. Birds of prey often circle the steep rock walls, making the tower feel even more isolated and unreachable in the wide sky. More than 50 million years ago, this place was a huge body of molten magma trapped underground before slowly cooling into solid rock. As the magma shrank, it cracked into thousands of tightly packed stone columns, many with hexagonal shapes, because this is an efficient way for nature to release stress. In 1906, Devil's Tower became the first national monument in the United States, beginning the use of law to protect extraordinary natural wonders. Thor's Well, on black basalt rock, polished by ocean waves. This place looks like a giant breathing hole of the sea, sometimes swallowing water down and sometimes throwing white spray into the sky. In winter, or during strong tides, waves higher than 10 feet keep rushing into the opening and turn it into a violent natural fountain. What makes it special is that water does not only fall from above, because giant waves also rush through underground tunnels, build pressure and blast powerful columns of water back into the sky through the mouth of the well. Although it is called the Gate of Hell and looks like a bottomless abyss, the well is actually only about 20 feet deep. This strange shape came from an old basalt sea cave whose roof collapsed after thousands of years of waves carving it from below. Because the rock is always wet and slippery with no protective fence, one sudden wave can turn this hypnotic scene into a danger right before your eyes. Gnick Glacier. Surrounded by permanent snow mountains, this glacier is about 25 miles long and flows from the high mountains down into the valley. During the melting season, house-sized ice blocks can fall into the lake and create strong waves dangerous for nearby boats. Deep cracks on the ice surface can be hidden by thin snow, making every step onto the glacier a risk that is hard to see with the naked eye. The emerald blue colour of the lake water and ice comes from tiny rock flour created when the heavy ice crushes the rock below as it moves. Its most striking feature is the glacier front, a huge wall of ice rising hundreds of feet at the end of the ice flow. During World War II, the area around the glacier was used by the US military for training in harsh weather, showing that its beauty has always been tied to endurance and danger.
Banff
National Park, Canada. Banff rises in the Rocky Mountains like a world too beautiful to seem real. And in 1885 it became Canada's oldest national park.
Few people realised
the government acted only after three workers tried to take the newly discovered hot springs for themselves, then turn this whole land into property
for the nation. But before that, Banff began with the moment people saw hot steam rising from the ground in a land covered by ice and snow,
as if heat from deep below was breaking through
winter itself. Its strongest image remains the glowing turquoise lakes, because very fine rock dust in the water
makes the light shine in an unusual
way. Around them stand white snow,
cold grey cliffs, and dark green conifer forests. A landscape shaped long ago by ice into steep mountain walls with great force.
Yet behind that beauty lies a dark memory, because during the First World War,
thousands of prisoners were once held here and forced to work through winters so cold they seemed to cut the skin.
Bosque de Piedras de Pampachiri, Peru.
At more than 13,000 feet above sea level, this place looks like a giant stone army frozen in silence across the cold and empty land
of the Andes.
During the day, sunlight can raise the temperature to about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, but as soon as the sun goes down, the cold quickly tightens and can fall to between about 23 and 32 degrees Fahrenheit, turning life here into a daily fight to endure. Because of that, people carved directly into the rocks to live inside them. And when fires burn, smoke slips through cracks and rises from the tops, making the whole stone field seem to breathe quietly.
This stone forest,
covering about 148 acres, was left behind by violent eruptions about 4 million years ago, scattering tens of thousands of rock towers as high as about 49 feet across the plateau.
As high as about 49 feet across the plateau. Looking
closer, you can even see old wooden doors fixed into some of the rocks, creating the strange feeling that a hidden village is tucked inside the stone itself.
And although many people call it the
Smurf village, that gentle name cannot hide the hardship of life on this where the night sky is so clear. It is so clear that the bright core of the Milky Way can be seen with the naked eye. Mara Salt Mines, Peru. Hanging on the slopes of the Andes at more than 11,000 feet above sea level, Maris looks like an ancient wonder where people turned a whole mountainside into a giant machine for making salt. In the middle of that view, local people still quietly scrape salt with simple tools, and the absence of machines helps the place keep a calm, old and almost timeless feeling. More than 3,000 salt pools stacked together cover the slope in white, like a giant dragon-scale blanket shining silver over red-brown earth. Even more amazing is that this place was built from about 200 to 700 AD and has kept working for thousands of years. Everything begins with only a small crack in the mountain where warm, salty water flows out steadily and is guided through each pool so the Highland sun can dry it into salt. And to protect this precious pink gold, visitors have been banned from stepping into the salt pools since 2019 and can now only admire the wonder from a distance. Komodo Island, Indonesia. Like a lost piece of the ancient world in the sea. This island rises with dry, jagged hills that look like the back of a giant monster lying still under the sun. Local people also believe that they and the Komodo dragon are twin siblings from the same mother, so even though the animal can attack both livestock and humans, they never kill it. Yet in the middle of that harsh beauty lies a rare pink beach, where broken red coral mixes with white sand beside clear emerald turquoise water, making the whole shore look unreal. Across this island of about 151 square miles live more than 2,000 Komodo dragons, the largest lizards left on Earth. They do not kill prey with bacteria as many once believed, but with venom that quickly lowers blood pressure and keeps blood from clotting.
Because it is so wild and unusual, the island was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1991 to protect these giant lizards and the rare ecosystem around them.
Hosil, China. Hosil opens like a forgotten world on the roof of Earth, where the average elevation is more than 14,800 feet, and the conditions are so harsh that almost no human presence can last for long. In the 1990s, the number of Tibetan antelopes here fell from about 1 million to fewer than 20,000, turning this land into a silent front line in the fight to keep life alive. That is why Hosil is known not only for its landscape, but also as the most important protected home of this animal, which was hunted to the edge of extinction only for its extremely fine wool. Around them stretch endless freezing high plains, closed in by mountain ranges covered in white snow all year, creating the feeling of another planet. Although it looks like a dry desert, this place holds thousands of lakes formed by melting ice, changing colour with the light and making the whole plateau feel both beautiful and strange. Even the safest way to cross it is by train with pumped oxygen, because for many people, simply stepping outside into that cold and height could become a death sentence. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, China. Like stone islands hanging in the sky, this place lifts more than 3,000 quartz pillars into the air, turning the whole view into a vertical maze that feels both beautiful and overwhelming. Entering it is also a test of nerve. Because besides an outdoor elevator about 1,070 feet high, there is a glass bridge hanging at about 984 feet between two cliffs. But what makes the scene even more unreal is that thick mist often hides the lower parts of the pillars, so the peaks above seem to break away from the earth and float in midair. In 1982, it became the first national forest park in China. And in 1992, it was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Some pillars rise to about 1,312 feet, yet remain so narrow that in places they are only a few arm spans wide, and still they have stood for millions of years as if refusing to fall.
They have stood for millions of years as if refusing to fall. This
unbelievable appearance later became the model for the floating mountains in Avatar, and one pillar was even renamed after the famous film.
Was even renamed after the famous film. Congo rainforest.
Democratic Republic of the Congo. At the heart of Africa, this rainforest covering about 500 million acres spreads like an endless green sea and plays a vital role in Earth's climate as the second largest
rainforest in the world. It is also the only home of the bonobo and an important refuge for gorillas, making this forest one of the most precious strongholds of wildlife on Earth. Beneath its dark, wet ground lies a huge peatland storing about 30 billion tons of carbon equal to around 3 years of all human emissions. Above that, ancient trees rising to about 200 feet join into such a thick roof that rain can take as long as 10 minutes to reach the ground. Cutting through its core is the Congo River, the deepest river on Earth, where the surface may look calm while violent and unpredictable power moves below. And with more than 250 ethnic groups living here for a very long time, this place is not only a natural treasure of Africa, but also a vast cultural map of human life in the deep forest. Serengeti, Tanzania, and Kenya. Spreading across nearly 12,000 square miles, this land appears like an endless sea of grass and a stage of survival where the laws of nature are shown in their rawest form. The name Serengeti comes from the Maasai word Serengeti, meaning the land that runs forever, and that name alone perfectly describes how small a person feels standing in this plain. The rainy season covers it in green, full of life. But when the dry season arrives, the whole region turns into a dusty, yellow ocean of grass that pulls the movement of every creature. The changing rhythm drives more than 1.5 million wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebras into an almost endless migration in search of water and grass. But moving beside that life is constant danger, because more than 3,000 lions and 1,000 leopards turn every stretch of land into a battlefield that never rests. At night, local people must build thorn fences around their camps to keep predators away, and with lion roars rolling across the grass. You understand that this place still lives by laws older than history itself. This place still lives by laws older than history itself.
Tsingai de Bemaraha National Park, Madagascar.
Appearing like a giant stone maze covering nearly 600 square miles. This place is filled with countless sharp spikes rising straight into the sky and making the ground look like a dangerous natural trap. Going only about 1 kilometre into this maze can drain a person like walking about 5 kilometres on normal ground, because every step demands twisting, squeezing, and clinging between sharp stone and narrow gaps. Even under such harsh conditions, it remains a safe haven for lemurs that can leap quickly across these sharp stone points with almost no injury. Even its name feels like a warning, because in the local language, Tsingy means a place where people cannot walk barefoot. This stone land was once under the sea more than 200 million years ago, and after it rose above the water, millions of years of rain shaped it into a stone forest as sharp as knives. Today, anyone who wants to go deep into this landscape must climb near vertical rock walls with safety gear, or hold their breath while crossing thin rope bridges hanging above deep chasms. Drakensberg Mountains, South Africa and Lesotho. Stretching for 621 miles like a giant wall of stone, this place lifts southern Africa to heights above 11,155 feet and makes it feel as if you are touching the edge of the sky. Deep inside its caves are more than 35,000 ancient rock paintings, turning these mountains into a vast memory chamber left behind by prehistoric people among stone and wind. When fog rears and hides the lower slopes, the sharp peaks suddenly appear as if they are floating in the air, making the whole landscape feel both beautiful and hard to believe. These long, unbroken cliffs are also what create waterfalls that plunge from shocking heights, giving the whole range a beauty that feels grand but also fierce.
Most striking of all is the second tallest waterfall on Earth, falling from about 3,281 feet, yet often torn apart by wind into mist hanging over the abyss before it reaches the ground. Even more unusual, summer covers the land with wildflowers while winter lays white snow across the peaks, making this place feel not only like a natural wonder, but like a world set apart from the rest of Africa.
Okavango Delta, Botswana. In the heart of the burning Kalahari Desert, this place appears like a giant emerald mirage, where water suddenly spreads out just when the dry season is tightening around all life.
Inside this maze, its core has also held signs of continuous sand-human life for about 100,000 years, thanks to water that has almost never disappeared. Unlike the usual image of a muddy swamp, the water here is crystal clear after passing through sand and thick roots, forming channels that shine like
glass.
The life of this land begins with a river that never reaches the sea, but instead spreads across the desert in countless streams like a heartbeat,
saving the whole ecosystem. Because of that, it draws in huge elephant herds, lions, leopards,
and thousands of hippos and crocodiles
hiding in the water.
Even stranger, this water system receives about 2.9 trillion gallons each year, only for the desert sand to slowly swallow it, making this one of the most unbelievable landscapes in Africa. Studlego Canyon, Iceland. For thousands of years, this place was completely hidden beneath a violent glacial river until a dam upstream lowered the water and revealed the astonishing scene below.
What makes Studlego even stranger is that its river colour never stays the same, because the calm turquoise shade is usually clearest in summer, while heavy rain or strong ice melt can turn it grey and fierce again. Beneath those stone walls, the bright river winds through the deep channel and creates a sharp contrast with the dark grey rock, making the whole scene look almost unreal.
When the water level dropped, it exposed a huge basalt formation with countless columns rising nearly 100 feet high, widely seen as one of the largest groups of basalt columns in Iceland.
Of basalt columns in Iceland. The strangest part is that these columns are not messy or broken in shape,
but clearly hexagonal, locked tightly together like a wall carved with impossible precision.
That mix of near-perfect structure, dramatic colour, and a past spent hidden from view
has made this one of the most astonishing landscapes nature has revealed in Iceland.
Gourem National Park is a broad landscape in central Turkey, widely known for an exceptionally dense concentration of naturally formed irregular rock structures. The dominant rock layer consists of compressed volcanic ash, soft enough for shaping yet strong enough to remain stable over very long geological periods. The area is recognized as a World Heritage Site because of the rare overlap between volcanic geology and long-term human habitation. Living space carved into the rock provided natural insulation, reducing environmental stress and maintaining relatively stable conditions inside. Geological studies indicate erosion occurred over roughly 8 to 10 million years through continuous exposure to wind and water. The entire region is classified as selectively eroded volcanic terrain, a landform preserved at an unusually large scale. Lysefjord, Norway. Lysefjord feels like a colossal crack in nature, where pale grey granite cliffs rise powerfully from the water to nearly 3,281 feet. The atmosphere is almost mystical, with mirror-still water enclosed by stone walls that drop straight into the deep blue fjord. One visually shocking sight is the giant boulders wedged inside rock cracks, hanging hundreds of feet above the abyss without falling.
carved by the immense weight of glaciers after the Ice Age, this 26-mile water corridor became a classic U-shaped landscape.
Its surface water is partly brackish,
formed when fresh mountain runoff mixes with salty seawater from below. More than a peaceful fjord, it is known worldwide as a sanctuary for daredevils chasing the limits of height,
fear, and freedom.
The Great Australian Bight is an ancient geological fracture along southern Australia, where the continent's edge was torn and fell into the sea. Waves from the Southern Ocean can rise over 50 feet, crashing against the cliffs and echoing through the air like underground thunder.
The region was shaped more than 100 million years ago
when Australia split from Antarctica, leaving a coast forever carved by erosion. Sunlight filtered through salt mist creates a strange silver glow, turning the ocean from jade to deep blue
within hours. Each year, tens of thousands of southern whales migrate across these waters, turning it into a natural highway for ocean giants.
The Great Australian Bight does not belong to humans. It is a primeval border where rock, wind and waves still speak the old language. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef on Earth and a symbolic tourist destination attracting millions of visitors to Australia every year. This system was formed from thousands of separate coral structures, slowly developing over more than 500,000 years of geological and biological change. In 1981, the Great Barrier Reef was recognised as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO and ranked among the world's most remarkable natural wonders. Beyond coral, this area supports thousands of marine species and birds, creating one of the most diverse ecosystems found in the ocean. Remarkably, the reef can absorb up to 97% of wave energy, acting as a natural barrier that protects coastlines from erosion. Adventure seekers can dive beneath clear waters to directly observe colourful marine creatures living freely within their natural coral environment. Renowned for its extreme weather, Mount Cook experiences regular blizzards and powerful winds, turning it into a perilous climbing challenge. From elevations over 10,000 feet, you can admire the breathtaking landscape with the expansive glacier system stretching for miles. Despite over 20,000 climbers attempting the ascent each year, only about 40% succeed, primarily due to the rapidly changing climate and difficult terrain. Mount Cook is not only a renowned mountaineering challenge, but also a national symbol of perseverance and natural strength. This was the training ground for Sir Edmund Hillary, where he honed his survival skills before conquering Everest. In 2018, a Japanese climber survived for 3 days at 10,500 feet, relying on melted glacier water from within an isolated ice cave. Yellowstone National Park, United States. Since 1872, Yellowstone has been known as the world's first national park. But behind that famous name is a land that feels strangely beautiful and deeply dangerous at the same time. Time. In many areas, the ground is so thin and hollow that people can hear boiling water under their feet, and one step off the path could drop someone into mud as hot as about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The bands of green, yellow, orange, and red around its pools are not simple reflections, but signs of countless tiny life forms living on poisoning conditions where most other life would die at once. Across the park are more than 10,000 hot springs, mud pools and steam vents, making up over half of all known features of this kind on Earth. Because of that, between deep canyons and wide pine forests, Yellowstone feels like another world where the land glows with color while hiding heat that never truly sleeps. And the most chilling truth is that its hot pools and smoking mud have killed or badly burned more visitors than all of its wild animals combined. Socotra lies in the Indian Ocean, about 240 miles from Yemen's coast, and is so unusual it is called an alien island. Over 30% of its plants and animals are endemic, not found anywhere else on Earth. Its symbol is the dragon's blood tree with an umbrella-shaped crown and red resin like blood, tied to ancient stories. Limestone cliffs, white sand dunes, and granite mountains create a diverse and contrasting landscape. The island split from Gondwana about 20 million years ago, allowing its ecosystem to evolve in isolation. UNESCO recognised it as a World Heritage Site in 2008 for its extraordinary biological value. Mount Etna in Italy rises above the island of Sicily as a massive volcanic mountain, where layers of dark rock and old ash create a wide and empty landscape. Across its slopes, ancient lava fields spread into rough ground covered with sharp black stone, and many areas remain empty and silent, like land never settled by people. Mount Etna stands about 11,000 feet tall, a height similar to a building close to 100 stories, making the volcano clearly visible across the island. Long lava caves lie hidden beneath the volcanic rock, formed when the outer layer of lava cooled, while molten rock inside continued moving forward. Even while living beside an active volcano, many local people still grow crops on mineral-rich volcanic soil created from layers of ancient lava. Mount Etna is considered one of the most important places in the world for volcano research, where scientists carefully monitor the movement of magma beneath the ground. Mount Everest in Nepal rises as a massive landform, where extreme elevation pushes the entire landscape beyond normal human perception. Huge glaciers move slowly across steep surfaces, leaving deep cracks and fragmented terrain that form a complex natural network. The mountain reaches about 29,000 feet, forming the highest natural structure on Earth and marking the upper limit humans can reach. The air at high altitude has only about one-third of the oxygen compared to sea level, making movement slower and more energy-consuming than usual. In many areas, compressed ice forms clear, blue blocks that create surfaces similar to natural glass, reflecting light very sharply. The entire space feels isolated, where terrain, light, and elevation combine to create an environment rarely seen on Earth. Lake Baikal, a lake more than 25 million years old, with a depth beyond 5,300 feet, giving the entire landscape an overwhelming sense of age. In 2021, the lake recorded winter ice thicker than 7 feet, marking the deepest freeze of the decade and supporting safe surface travel. Its natural clarity of more than 130 feet makes the surface feel like a blue window that opens into ancient layers of water below.
In 2018,
a biological survey confirmed more than 2,500 endemic species, many of which do not exist anywhere else on Earth.
Many of which do not exist anywhere else on Earth. The lake's exceptional
purity allows certain ice samples to measure close to distilled water, creating one of the rarest natural conditions
on the planet. When you arrive,
you can lie on the transparent ice and watch ancient air bubbles remain perfectly still, as if suspended outside the flow of time.
Fairy circles, Namibia. From above,
Namibia.
Fairy circles look like desert skin.
Fairy circles look like desert skin covered with millions of bare red rings. Each one bordered by a strangely even circle of green grass.
To local people, this impossible order is seen as the footprints of the god Mukuru, and only from a small plane or hot air balloon
can you feel its overwhelming scale.
Hot air balloon can you feel its overwhelming scale. Science still has no complete answer.
Because one theory says sand termites create the empty spaces, while another says plants arrange themselves
this way to compete for water. These circles,
about 7 to 49 feet wide, stretch for more than 1,243 miles, yet they almost never touch, keeping an even spacing like a mysterious formation on the ground. What makes them strange is that the bare soil inside may let rainwater sink deep underground, and that stored water then helps the grass around the edge survive harsh, dry seasons. Shane-Timpishka, Peru.
Hidden deep inside the Amazon
rainforest. Shane-Timpishka is a boiling river more than 4 miles long, with parts reaching 210 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to leave fallen creatures with little chance to survive.
Hot enough to leave fallen creatures with little chance to survive.
To local people, the name Shane-Timpishka means a river boiled by the heat of the sun,
making it feel both frightening and sacred in the deep forest.
But this beauty is not safe. Because
the clear
water can fool the eye, while the heat below can cause serious burns in only a few moments.
What seems impossible
is that this river is not beside a volcano, but is heated by deep geothermal faults where heat from inside the earth rises into the water.
Where heat from inside the earth rises into the water.
As visitors move through the dense trees to get closer, white steam rises from the quiet river, creating a scene that feels beautiful, unsettling, and almost like a natural trap. Fingal's Cave, Scotland.
From a distance, Fingal's Cave looks like a black stone cathedral in the sea,
with tall rock columns that make many people imagine it as the remains of an ancient civilization.
In summer,
the waves inside the cave sound musical, but in winter, Atlantic storms create a furious sound that inspired Mendelssohn
to write a timeless symphony. Inside the space, which reaches 227 feet deep and 72 feet high,
each wave hits the hollow rock walls and turns the whole cave
into a giant sound chamber. To get close to the cave, people must cross rough sea water
and walk on slippery basalt ledges. So its beauty always comes
with a sense of danger.
Those strange hexagonal columns were actually made from ancient lava when the rock cooled, shrank, and cracked into shapes, so even that they look almost impossible. Blue Tears, Sea China. When night falls, Blue Tears Sea turns the dark ocean into a giant blue glow, moving with each wave as if the sea is shining from within.
But this fragile beauty can easily be hidden by city lights, so only when full darkness returns
can this magical blue color
appear clearly. This phenomenon is usually strongest from late spring to early summer, when the water temperature and wind direction are right,
making the search for Blue Tears exciting and unpredictable.
Making the search for Blue Tears exciting and unpredictable.
The light is actually a defense system from billions of tiny plankton, but when they are washed onto the sand, they glow for only 1 to 2 minutes before fading away.
They glow for only 1 to 2 minutes before fading away.
Hundreds of years ago, before people understood the science behind it, many fishermen feared this blue light and called it ghost fire, like spirits at sea trying to find their way back to shore.
Sumgangkutuk, Russia.
In the middle of a dense forest, Sumgangkutuk suddenly opens like a giant black mouth, forming a vertical sinkhole that drops 380 feet into the earth. At the bottom, wild animal bones lie scattered like traces of a natural trap, while behind them stretches a 6-mile underground maze
with black rivers flowing quietly.
Cold air stays trapped inside this deep shaft all year, keeping the lower cave frozen with ice waterfalls, snow-covered walls, and clear crystal-like ice formations.
In the old local language, the cave name means the swallowing well, a frightening name that perfectly matches its dark funnel shape. The space inside is also enormous, with underground chambers holding more than 1 million cubic yards of volume, enough to make anyone who enters feel tiny before the darkness. Moray, Peru. Moray appears in the Andes like a giant fingerprint pressed deep into the earth, so striking that it is hard to believe ancient people built it by hand. From these terraces, the Inca helped develop about 3,000 kinds of potatoes, opening the way for a food source that later saved millions of people from famine. Thanks to tightly fitted stone walls made without mortar and a hidden drainage system below, this great pit has never flooded even during the heaviest rainy season. But even more impressive is that the hole, about 98 feet deep, could create a temperature difference of about 27 degrees Fahrenheit, so each level had weather conditions like a true climate machine. Ancient people also brought soil here from many distant regions, then used each terrace to test how crops could slowly adapt to harsh conditions. Today, visitors are not allowed to step down into the bottom and can only stand at the rim to feel the cold precision and astonishing intelligence of their ancestors. Ostfauna Glacier Waterfalls, Norway. At the frozen edge of the world, Ostfauna looks like a white fortress leaking water as hundreds of summer waterfalls pour from the ice and fall into the cold Black Sea. To watch this rare scene, visitors must travel by small boat and always keep a safe distance because one large collapsing ice block can create dangerous waves. The space that seems silent is often torn apart by thunder, like cracking sounds, when ice blocks weighing thousands of tons break from the wall and crash into the ocean. Few people know the shape of the ice wall and the position of the waterfalls change every day, so the position of the waterfalls change every day. Tomorrow. So the scene you see today may disappear completely tomorrow. among countless silent icebergs. The contrast between the bright white ice wall and the Black Sea makes this place feel like a frozen world humans can only witness from far away. Mount Chimaira, Turkey. On the slope of Mount Chimaira, dozens of natural flames have burned continuously for more than 2,500 years, making this place feel like a land from mythology. To see this scene clearly, visitors must climb over half a mile up a rough rocky path in the dark before orange flames appear in the night. The strange fire vents once made ancient people build temples beside them, turning this place into a solemn space for worshipping the fire god Hephaestus. In Greek mythology, people believe the monster Chimera was buried under this mountain, so the flames rising from the rocks are seen as its breath. In reality, the fire burns because natural gas escapes through cracks and ignites by itself. But when the flames flicker at night, the myth still feels stronger than any explanation. Jawatan Forest, Indonesia. Walking into Jawatan Forest feels like entering a magical woodland where twisted and rough old trees look like giant sleeping creatures. Few people know this place was once an abandoned timber storage area until nature slowly rose again, and the old railway tracks remained as traces of the past. On the ground, the roots rise like giant pythons, forming rough paths that make every step feel careful and uneasy. The Trembesi trees here are not only known for their huge canopies, but one mature tree can absorb up to 28 tons of carbon dioxide each year, turning the forest into a powerful green lung. This strange look, which needs almost no decoration, has made Jawatan Forest a favourite setting for many local horror and fantasy filmmakers. Anji Canyon, China. In a dry desert landscape, Anji Canyon opens like a giant crack 1,312 feet deep, pulling the eye into a colourful world that feels both beautiful and frightening. Standing near the unprotected cliff edge makes you feel how small humans are before a wild, rough landscape that refuses to be controlled. Along both sides of the canyon, water and wind have carved the earth walls into downward folds, soft like the train of a dress, but ready to collapse at any moment. Few people know this canyon began from a geological fault more than 200 million years old, created by violent movements that once tore the Earth's crust apart. Under midday sunlight, the red, purple, green, and yellow bands shine like a rainbow. But when dark clouds arrive, all of Anji turns bruised, shadowy, and threatening. Salto del Agrio, Argentina. Inside a dark, rocky canyon, Salto del Agrio falls like a glowing toxic waterfall, where the water shines in lemon yellow and emerald green, like a warning from nature. This place is called Salto del Agrio, meaning sour waterfall, because the water contains sulfur, iron, and acidic minerals, giving it a sharp, sour taste and making it impossible to drink. From about 148 feet high, the waterfall crashes into a half-circle stone basin, making the scene look like an ancient arena carved into volcanic rock. Look like an ancient arena carved into volcanic rock. Because of its high salt and mineral content, this acidic water can keep flowing in freezing weather, even when the surrounding landscape is covered in snow. When the waterfall hits the rocks, thick yellow mist rises into the air, strong enough to sting the eyes and leave a rusty metal smell around the canyon. Hengifoss waterfall, Iceland. In a cold and wild land, Hengifoss appears like a giant cut on a black cliff, where white water falls from a height of 420 feet. To see this bleeding-coloured cliff with their own eyes, visitors must hike about 2 miles one way through cold slopes, making the journey tiring but worth it. The waterfall drops straight into the gorge like a white flash of lightning, creating a strong contrast with the heavy, rough, and dark basalt rock behind it.
In harsh winter, the waterfall can freeze into a giant ice formation hanging between the red and black cliff, creating a cold and threatening scene.
Around the places touched by spray, bright green moss grows strongly, creating a strange contrast between the green of life, the red of iron-rich soil, and the black of ancient lava.
Paranthrampara, India.
Known as a wild hidden gem in the hills of southern India,
Paranthrampara feels haunting because peaceful green grass can end in a deadly abyss
after only one step.
Its greatest beauty comes from its raw emptiness,
often rises
with no concrete
from the valley
steps,
floor,
no cable cars, and no busy shops, only untouched, nature forcing people to take responsibility for every
like an unreal
step.
world.
During the day, thick fog
surface
often rises quickly from the valley floor,
safe.
covering the grass,
But just below
cliffs,
that peaceful look
and people before
steep
suddenly
cliffs,
clearing
straight
under the
into the
sunlight
deep
like
valley.
an unreal world.
The name
Paranthrampara comes from the large rock stretching toward the cliff edge, because its shape looks like a giant eagle spreading its wings in the open air. Tugela Falls, South Africa. On the highlands of South Africa, Tugela Falls appears like a white ribbon falling from a giant rock wall, plunging from a height of 3,110 feet in a breathtaking way. In the local language, the waterfall's name means something that causes amazement, or a rushing river, reflecting human fear and respect for the power of the waterfall.
To see the
full view, visitors must cross steep mountain trails, exposed cliffs, and unpredictable highland weather, where nature still feels wild and challenging. Because it is so high, the water is often torn into white mist by the wind before reaching the bottom, making the waterfall look as if it is disappearing in midair. At the top is a bare highland with rough rocks, moss and strong winds, creating the feeling that you are standing on the edge of another planet. Simpson Desert, Australia. Like a giant barcode carved into Earth's crust, this deadly wasteland puzzles scientists with more than 1,100 parallel sand ridges stretching up to 124 miles without breaking. The mystery deepens when finely carved stone tools are found in the center of this sand ocean, even though the original rock sources lie hundreds of miles away. Its rust-red sand comes from iron oxide coating quartz grains, but the extreme uniformity and density of that color still raise questions about ancient geological conditions. Equally strange are the bare circular patches where grass refuses to grow, keeping debate alive over whether water, soil termites, or climate created them. Even life here seems impossible, as water-holding frogs seal themselves in dead-skin cocoons 3 feet underground to survive years of drought.
El Tatio, Chile. Deep beneath the desert, a vast underground water labyrinth keeps erupting with force. Yet scientists still cannot fully decode its hidden map. Facing this strange phenomenon, ancient indigenous people believed it was the cry of the spirit world, giving the place a name, meaning the crying grandfather. The crying grandfather. At 14,173 feet, the thin air makes these springs boil violently at only 187 degrees Fahrenheit instead of the normal boiling point. Adding to the mystery, the erupting water is snowmelt that can take decades to seep down into red-hot rocks before geothermal pressure blasts it back upward. At dawn, the clash between freezing air and boiling water creates ghostly steam columns, turning El Tatio into a surreal natural landscape. Arco del Tiempo, Mexico. Hanging nearly 650 feet above the canyon, this giant limestone arch seems to defy gravity by holding millions of tons of rock without any visible pillars. Hidden deep in the jungle for centuries, it frightened ancient people who saw the massive opening as a physical gate leading into the underworld. Its curved stone walls may also create strange acoustic effects, making river sounds and wind echoes feel deeper and more unreal inside the canyon. The mystery grows around the isolated terrain, where thick forests, steep cliffs, and difficult access long kept the arch beyond clear mapping and exploration.
Beneath the suspended stone, a glowing emerald river flows past frozen waterfall like stalactites, while hiding sinkholes and powerful currents in the darkness. Rio de Fogo, Brazil. When a mysterious tidal mechanism begins, millions of gallons of ocean water seem to drain away, revealing a hidden coral kingdom beneath the surface. Inside the exposed coral maze, strange quiet zones can swallow much of the wave noise, leaving visitors surrounded by an almost unreal silence. Toward the shore, sand dunes rising up to 98 feet keep shifting under fierce winds, as if the coastline itself is slowly crawling every year. Natural geometry. The scene becomes most surreal when shallow pools turn into giant crystal mirrors, erasing the boundary between sea and sky. Garni Gorge, Armenia. Opening like a surreal dimension, this valley reveals a mysterious geometric world with tens of thousands of tightly packed hexagonal stone prisms. As visitors walk along the canyon floor, the repeated columns can create a strange optical illusion, making the cliff face seem to ripple with every step. The most striking feature is that some massive basalt columns hang downward from the cliff top, giving the impossible feeling that stone is suspended against gravity. Faced with this unnatural-looking structure, ancient people believed it was a magical work carved by giants or divine forces. Behind that majestic beauty are hidden dangers because temperature changes can crack the columns and release falling rocks without warning. Algarve do Carvão, Portugal. Acting like a rare gateway into the center of a volcano, this wonder reveals a giant empty chamber dropping nearly 295 feet beneath the surface. At the bottom of the dark abyss, researchers are still puzzled by an underground lake that can disappear through hidden drainage paths beside ancient microorganisms surviving in extreme darkness.
Defying normal geological expectations, the fractured roof of the chamber never collapsed, but remained locked together, while vegetation slowly spread toward the fading light above. The emptiness formed after magma unexpectedly drained back underground instead of cooling and sealing the volcanic crater. Along the cave walls, dark volcanic glass preserves the twisted shapes of ancient lava,
as if the eruption was frozen in place at the peak of its violence.
Naga Rural Park, Spain,
rising as a prehistoric oasis isolated in the ocean, this vast park challenges science by preserving an ancient ecosystem for millions of years. From the mountain peaks, viewers can see a thick sea of fog rolling below, swallowing the world under a white moving blanket. Its mystery is shaped by giant volcanic cores, hardened lava pillars left exposed by time, creating terrain that seems to challenge gravity. The source of life here is equally strange, as old tree branches act like a giant net, catching fog and turning it into water for the forest. The eerie feeling deepens in areas with small magnetic anomalies, where compasses may lose accuracy and travelers can feel swallowed by the mist. Las Gachas, Colombia. This mysterious river has no muddy bed but flows over a massive monolithic sedimentary rock stained deep red by iron oxide like a ribbon of blood across nature. The bright red colour and bubbling pools can trick the mind into seeing a lava stream, although the spring water is actually cold, around 59 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. On a rock surface covered by a slippery microbial film, swirling water has drilled for thousands of years to create hundreds of strangely perfect round holes.
round holes.
This natural geometry also creates optical illusions, where a shallow 4-inch puddle can look like a 10-foot deep trap because of the rock color and clear water.
Because of the rock color and clear water.
Despite these strange physical and geometric features, this surreal wonder stayed almost forgotten by the outside world
until recent years.
Totori Sand Dunes, Japan, creating an unreal scene beside the ocean. This giant desert formed from winds and sea currents that have pushed sand back onto the shore for
100,000 years. The most dramatic site is a
40-degree sand slope, rising 154 feet toward the sea, looking like a frozen golden tsunami stopped in mid-collapse. Winds blowing around 11 to 13 miles per hour, repeating ripples that follow strange
fractal-like geometric patterns.
Breaking the normal image of a desert, winter can cover this huge sand field in snow, creating the illusion of a completely alien world. Under the constant movement of sand, ancient artifacts can suddenly appear after storms and then vanish again beneath the dunes, adding even more mystery to this shifting landscape. Itaim-Bezinho Canyon, Brazil. Resembling a brutal slash across the earth, this geological wonder was born from ancient volcanic forces around 130 million years ago, when the old supercontinent began to split apart. Defying normal erosion. Its basalt cliffs drop 2,362 feet and still appear almost vertical, leaving scientists puzzled by their lasting sharpness. Dense iron minerals and hidden underground water veins add to the mystery, as storms, pressure, and stone seem to shape the canyon from both above and below. With almost no fossils preserved in lava-borne basalt, this giant crevice once inspired spiritual fear, as ancient people saw it as a dark mouth opening into the underworld. Hidden beneath a vast green plateau, the abyss can also create strong updrafts that blow waterfall spray upward, forming the illusion of a reverse waterfall that never reaches the bottom. Ball's Pyramid, Australia. Rising from the ocean like a giant dragon fang, this lonely rock stands 1,844 feet high and is actually the fossilized heart of a volcano that went extinct 7 million years ago.
That went extinct 7 million years ago. Under the force of Pacific storms, its sharp stone body may act like a giant natural tuning fork,
creating strange vibrations through wind, waves, and basalt. Its existence feels like a gravity paradox because millions of tons of basalt still stand firm on an extremely narrow base above the sea.
On an extremely narrow base above the sea.
Hidden on that deadly dry cliff is a biological miracle where 24 giant stick insects, once thought extinct, were found surviving on a single bush. Even the clouds behave strangely around its peak, splitting into swirling forms that make the sea cliff look like a volcano
breathing smoke.
Waimangu Volcanic Valley,
New Zealand.
Rising like a fiery scar from a tectonic disaster. Waimangu Volcanic Valley leaves scientists puzzled by strange geothermal phenomena
with no final answer.
Inside this volcanic cauldron, two nearby lakes keep rising and falling in opposite rhythms,
as if they share an eerie underground breath.
The violent eruption of 1886 created a terrifying turning point when it ripped open an 11-mile rift in only 4 hours. The extreme environment reaches its peak where the ground releases invisible streams of toxic gas into valleys strong enough to make birds fall dead in mid-air.
Into valleys. Strong enough to make birds fall dead in mid-air.
This bizarre valley also once had a magnificent geyser that shot up to 1,509 feet, then suddenly shut down forever after a mysterious geological failure. Teide National Park, Spain, rising 24,606 feet from the seabed, this mysterious supervolcano holds a 10-mile-wide caldera where an ancient peak collapsed into itself. Once feared as the prison of an evil god, this landscape hides natural mummification caves and ancient spiral carvings that still remain undeciphered. Across the barren surface lie hollow, pumice stones and invisible underground vents, releasing sulfur gas as hot as 187 degrees Fahrenheit. Its dry volcanic terrain is so similar to the surface of Mars that scientists use it to test space exploration robots. The most astonishing sight is the frozen lava flows, where black magma seems to have stopped while surging, turning the ground into a forest of stone daggers pointing toward the sky. Colca Canyon, Peru. As a brutal erosion paradox of nature, this massive fissure reaches 10,728 feet deep, while the river below seems far too small to have carved it alone. Around the abyss, fault networks and hidden geothermal forces heat parts of the water, yet the exact underground heat source remains difficult to locate. The mystery grows when marine fossils are found at an altitude of 13,123 feet, showing how ancient seafloor was lifted high into the Andes. Deep inside the canyon, isolated microclimates may force plants and animals to adapt in unusual ways, creating life conditions different from the world above. Magnetic disturbances and strange reports of silent light orbs near the dark bottom make Colca feel like an abyss where geology, atmosphere and legend still refuse to separate.